Hare Krishna devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Sri Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Aradhya Mataji, whenever you're ready, you can start, Mataji. I'll share my screen. Aradhya Mataji, can you hear me?
Sorry, Prabhu, I was on mute.
Okay, perfect.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Gurudev. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Cheva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Nastaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Sloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nestiki. We are reading from Canto 4, The Creation of the Fourth Order, Chapter 3, Talks between Lord Shiva and Sati, text 1 through 13. Text 1. Maitreya continued. In this matter, the tension between the father-in-law and son-in-law, Daksha and Lord Shiva, continued for a considerably long period. Text 2. When Lord Brahma appointed Daksha the chief of all Prajapatis, the progenitors of population, Daksha became very much puffed up. Text 3. Daksha began a sacrifice named Vajapaya, and he became excessively confident in his support by Lord Brahma. He then performed another great sacrifice named Brihaspati Sava. Text 4. While the sacrifice was being performed, many Brahma rishis, great sages, ancestral demigods, and other demigods, their wives, all very nicely decorated with ornaments, attended from different parts of the universe. Text 5 to 7. The chaste lady Sati, the daughter of Daksha, heard the heavenly denizens flying in the sky conversing about the great sacrifice being performed by her father. When she saw that from all directions the beautiful wives of the heavenly denizens, their eyes very beautifully glittering, were near her residence and were going to the sacrifice, dressed in fine clothing and ornamented with earrings and necklaces with lockets, she approached her husband, the master of the Bhutas, in great anxiety and spoke as follows. Text 8. Sati said, My dear Lord Shiva, your father-in-law is now executing great sacrifices, and all the demigods, having been invited by him, are going there. If you desire, we may also go. Text 9. I think that all my sisters must have gone to this great sacrificial ceremony with their husbands just to see their relatives. I also desire to decorate myself with the ornaments given to me by my father and go there with you to participate in that assembly. Text 10. My sisters, my mother's sisters and their husbands and other affectionate relatives must be assembled there. So if I go, I shall be able to see them. And I shall be able to see the flapping flags and the performance of the sacrifice by the great sages. For these reasons, my dear husband, I am very much anxious to go. Text 11. This manifested cosmos in a wonderful creation of the interaction of the three material modes, or the external energy of the Supreme Lord. This truth is fully known to you, yet I am but a poor woman, and as you know, I am not conversant with the truth. Therefore, I wish to see my birthplace once more. Text 12. O never born, O blue-throated one, not only my relatives, but also other women, dressed in nice clothes and decorated with ornaments, are going there with their husbands and friends. Just see how their flocks of white airplanes have made the entire sky very beautiful. Text 13. O best of the demigods, how can the body of a daughter remain undisturbed when she hears that some festive events is taking place in her father's house? Even though you may be considering that I have not been invited, there is no harm if one goes to the house of one's friend, husband, spiritual master, or father without invitation. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Yeah, thank you, Chaitanya Chandra Prabhu. Whenever you're ready, you can start, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you, Madhvi Mataji, for reading the translation today. Thank you all the devotees for coming and giving me the opportunity to speak and serve you and purify myself by reading something from Srimad Bhagavatam. I'm going to start by offering my prayers. Om Kyantimirandhasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesh Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarne Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Mukham karoti vachalam panghum langayate girim yatkripatam ham vande Shri Gurudim Taranam. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Today we'll be reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 3, titled Talks Between Lord Shiva and Mother Sati. To give you a background of what's the discussion going on so far. So we have been seeing how wonderfully Maitri Muni has been answering Vidur's questions and describing the lineage of Swayambhuva Manu. And in talking about his lineage, he's talking about his children. In the previous canto and chapters, we have heard about Mother Devahuti and her children, Mother Akuti and her children. And now we're talking about Mother Prasuti. When the discussion came to Mother Prasuti, Maitri had mentioned how wonderfully they had, Mother Prasuti and Daksha Prajapati had 16 children, and of them, the last one did not have any child. And then the conversation shifted to what happened in that particular scenario, and how did Daksh Maharaj offend Lord Shiva. And we read in the previous chapter how in a sacrificial arena, Daksh Maharaj had offended Lord Shiva, and in that scenario there was cursing and counter cursing going on, and how wonderfully Lord Shiva had displayed the quality of tolerance, and despite all the cursing, counter cursing, he did not say anything but simply leaves the assembly. So, with that particular background and event, there continued to be ongoing tension between Daksh Prajapati and Lord Shiva. And that is the background of what we're going to read today. It is described here. So, in the first text, Maitri continues that in this manner, the tension between the father-in-law and son-in-law, Lord Shiva, continued to go on for a considerably long period. So generally, what was this in text towards described is that when Lord Brahma appointed Daksha as the chief of all Prajapatis, the progenitors of population, Daksh became very much puffed up. So Daksh Prajapati now was appointed as the chief of all the progenitors. So having acquired that position, being very wealthy, having very good looks, being the son of Brahma, he became very puffed up and very proud with all these accolades that he achieved. And as a result of this, he was conducting this wonderful sacrifice. Initially, it was performed a sacrifice called Vajapayena, described in the next shloka. And with part of all these sacrifices, normally any sacrifice that's done is done for the pleasure of Lord Vishnu. But in order to please Lord Vishnu, there has to be the presence of devotees in the form of demigods as well. But because he was so puffed up that Daksh Prajapati ignored the demigods, especially chief among them being Lord Shiva, and he wanted to continue the sacrifice. Here we can learn how pride can be such a big hindrance or obstacle in our path to devotional service. In Bible, it is said, pride comes before the fall. That before somebody falls down, actually pride shows up in his heart. In a lecture from Maharaj, I had heard that when pride comes in our heart, that means that we have already fallen down. What happens after that are just the details of how we fall. The truth is, dear devotees, that in this material world, there is nothing to be proud of. This material world is like a prison house. We have all committed some aparadh. In our consciousness, we have maintained this envy towards Krishna, and that is why we have taken birth in this material world. And as a result of it, we are all prisoners in this material world. Therefore, even if we achieve something in this material world in terms of wealth, academic qualification, good birth, good looks, there is nothing to be proud of, because in a jail, there's nothing a prisoners can be proud of. You can be a small thief or a big thief, but the reason you're in the prison, there's nothing to be proud of that reason. So Daksh Prajapati, although having all these acquired all these good qualities, he was not able to realize that. The thing is that when we have pride in our heart, Krishna will no longer take pleasure in what we do, and we lose that opportunity. Because when we take to the process of bhakti, bhakti is not achieved. We cannot achieve bhakti like we can achieve a degree, achieve a bank balance by doing something on our own. But bhakti is something that is awarded to us when we sincerely and wholeheartedly serve the Vaishnavas, and we please the senior devotees, and we please Radharani and Krishna, they award this bhakti to us. And because it is awarded to us, it can also be taken away from us. And that is something that we need to remember. And unfortunately, in this particular incident, Daksh Maharaj was not able to realize this. In another example, it is mentioned how uh, Prahlad Maharaj, when in his conversation with his father Hiranyakashipu, mentions to him that how he's become so proud of all his achievements because he had done such wonderful austerities, but this pride itself is something that's going to be the cause of his demise. And he explains, which we can learn from as the cure for this pride. Prahlad Maharaj explains to Hiranyakashipu is to roll and cover yourself up with the dust of the devotees. One may ask practically, how do you do that? In a lecture I had heard that the way to do that is Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Just how we prayed in the beginning of the class is to always sincerely come and read and nourish the Srimad Bhagavatam and serve the Vaishnavas who are like Bhagavatam in person, the great devotees. And in this particular way, we can destroy or at least curb our pride tendency in our heart. So, however, unfortunate for Daksh Maharaj, he was not able to do this. And in the process, he started this first sacrifice called Vajapeya and becoming excessively confident with support by Lord Brahma. He went on to perform another sacrifice called Brihaspati Sava. And now, despite doing these great sacrifices one after another, he would not directly involve Lord Shiva in the sacrifice. And in that process, Prabhupada describes in the purport, he was committing Vaishnava Aparadh. Because if you are trying to satisfy Lord Vishnu or Krishna, we are not able to satisfy him unless we satisfy his devotee. And if you offend his devotee, that is also called like the mad elephant aparadh, the aparadh, one of the 10 offenses to the holy name. When we come in bhakti and we make small advancements, we start chanting around sincerely, we start taking up some austerity, we read every day. But if we offend a devotee, even these small successes that we are achieving, that will be destroyed because we are inviting a mad elephant into our garden. And when a mad elephant enters into a garden, it destroys everything that's there. With this, I remember an incident from His Divine Grace Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's life. There was once a temple who was having an inauguration, and a wonderful festival was there. And from disciples of His Divine Grace Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and he had been invited to participate in that. So when Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur presented for that particular event, he inquired about a devotee who used to be very sincerely serving in that temple. And in the background, what had happened was some time ago, there was some misunderstanding, and that devotee was very heavily criticized. So much so that his heart was shattered, and he decided to leave the company association of devotees. So when Maharaj heard about this, he said, "I'm not going to participate in these festivities till you go and find that devotee and bring him back." So now everybody started scrambling. Is now how can we start all the program without? So they started running around the town, and finally from somewhere they found out that devotee is now was working in a watch shop. So they came and they fell at his feet and they asked for forgiveness, and they said, "You have to come with us, otherwise Guru Maharaj is saying he's not going to start the festival." So that devotee was so shocked and at the same time so humble that Bhakti Sanskrit Maharaj thought about him and gave him so much importance. So he gave back, and he paid his obeisances. He came back, and the festivities went on. So in that particular way, Bhakti Sanskrit Maharaj had taught us that when we are trying to please the Vaishnavas, when we're trying to please Vishnu or Krishna, and organizing elaborate festivals for that, um, we cannot do it by offending devotees. Unless devotees are satisfied, that the whole purpose will not be achieved of that particular festival or sacrifice. That was the mistake here Daksh Prajapati was making by offending the demigods, including the Lord Shiva. Now, when the sacrifice was being performed, this was not a sacrifice just from one state or one country. This was a universal sacrifice, and many Brahma Rishi, sage, ancestral demigods, some other demigods, and their wives were presenting from different parts of the universe. They were auspiciously decorated. So usually in our festivals and in our events, the women auspiciously decorate themselves in order to make the environment more pleasing. And in the next shloka, it is mentioned that now Mother Sati, who is the daughter of Daksha, she heard these wonderful denizens flying in the sky, and as they were flying, they looked very beautiful and attractive, and they were also talking about this wonderful sacrifice that they're going to attend, which is being performed by her father, Daksh Prajapati. And after hearing this, Mother Sati really wanted to also go there, and in her heart, she developed this desire. In the purport, Prabhupada mentions that there is a term mentioned Upadeva. Upadeva is a term that's mentioned for Gandharvas, Kinnaras, and Uragas, who are between demigods and ordinary human beings. So even those great personalities, the Upadevas, were approaching to attend this wonderful sacrifice. In text 8, Mother Sati now approaches Lord Shiva. That she knew that there is this. In the first text, we had seen how this ongoing tension was kept on going between Daksh Prajapati and Lord Shiva. But despite that, she wanted to present her proposal of wanting to attend this sacrifice, going back to her house. But instead of saying it directly, she wanted to be very polite, and she said, "If you desire, then we may also go." So she wanted to see if Lord Shiva could agree to that. In text 9, now she starts presenting many different reasons, Lord Shiva, why really she thinks it is important that she should go. And we'll see wonderfully in tomorrow's class how Lord Shiva will counteract and give counter arguments to all those reasons, and tell those actually, if you look at those reasons, analyze them in depth, they don't make a lot of sense. In text 9, she says that I think that all my sisters must have gone to this great sacrifice with their husbands. I also desire to decorate myself with the ornaments given to me by my father and go there with you to participate in that assembly. In the purport to this, Prabhupada describes that the word "stri" means one who expands the field of material enjoyment. Women, Prabhupada describes, is the basic principle for material enjoyment. In terms of tattva, it's also mentioned that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is the energetic or the Purush, and his energy is the female counterpart or one that is enjoyed. This tendency to enjoy is very much present in the energy form, in what we in all of us, and especially it's mentioned as in women. This Prabhupada also mentions in the purport that the attraction between man and women is the arrangement of conditional life. This great attraction that's there is what leads from one thing to another. So once this attraction develops in the heart, people enter into family life, they have children, then they have other responsibilities, and they have a house, then they have grandkids, and so on and so forth. The starting point of all this miserable situation is the attraction between man and wife. Gaurang Prabhu in one of his lectures had joked that once a husband was frustrated with his wife, and he asks his wife, "Why does God make you beautiful and dumb at the same time?" And the Mataji replied very wittily that God makes us beautiful, so you agree to marry us, and God makes us dumb, so we agree to marry you. That is the attraction between man and woman, which leads to conditional life. There's another example that comes from our Shastras in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9. There's this wonderful story of Shobri Muni. Shobri Muni was a very advanced ascetic, a yogi, who could perform tapasya underwater, holding his breath for thousands of years. He had such wonderful yogic qualities that he had achieved by his austerities. But for some reason, he had offended a great Vaishnava. So in the form of Garudev. So when he had offended the Vaishnava, Krishna withdrew his mercy from Shobari Muni. And as a result of it, even the most simplest thing of a male fish and a female fish mating in front of him, that was able to distract his eyes. And he lost all his composure and his sense of yogic qualities, and he immediately left the riverbed and goes on to look for this particular enjoyment. And when he arrives to a kingdom and he's rejected initially because of his old age and his looks, he uses his yogic abilities to transform himself into a young, beautiful person and marries many princesses. But as the story goes on to describe is after a few years, neither is he happy, nor are any of the princesses happy. And they all realize, and he realizes, how did all this start? Just with my being distracted by observing two fish mating, I brought myself into this predicament. So similarly, Prabhupada explains in this that the attraction between man and woman, that is the arrangement of conditional life, and that is what binds us. So Mother Sati, she wanted to sort of participate in this yajna and this festival in order to go with her husband and be with the rest of the family, but Lord Shiva was indifferent to this. In the next text 10, she gives other reasons. So I want to go because because my other sisters and their husbands and everybody will be there, and I'll wonderfully get to meet all my relatives. We are so much attached to our family. It's in many wonderful examples are given by devotees. You may have heard one is how we should approach our family, or our perspective towards our family should be like passengers in a train. When somebody boards a train, different people board on different stations and come together for some time, and then when your station comes, then you leave and get off. You don't have those same passengers with you all your life, because they're just part of the journey. Similarly, an example is given of a drinking well in a village. So a lot of people will congregate in a well near a village to drink water, and sometimes they may chat and have basic conversations, but then they each go back into their own lives. So similarly, when we are family, we all come together for a particular amount of time to congregate, to learn from each other, to help each other grow and advance in bhakti. But each of us are living our individual journey. Prabhupada used to give this example that spiritual life is like flying an aeroplane. If I'm flying my aeroplane, the only person who can help me is me. Is I'm the person who's flying it. From outside, nobody can come inside my aeroplane and help it. They can only give instructions on the radio as to what to do, what not to do. So Even though in family life we come together and work for each other's benefit in order to help everybody come close to Krishna, but still we have to understand that each of us have our own spiritual journey, and too much attraction to family life can be binding. In text level, now Mother Sati acknowledges the wonderful position of Lord Shiva. She says that this material manifestation is a wonderful creation of the three material modes, or the external energy of the Supreme Lord. And this truth is fully known to you. However, I, but being a poor woman, as you know, am not very conversant with the truth. Therefore, I wish to see my birthplace. So, in this place, she is very honestly putting forth her argument that even though she understands a little bit and she knows that Lord Shiva knows in full the temporary nature of this material world, however, she's not able to give up this inclination. In the purport, Prabhupada writes that Lord Shiva is being described with the word Aja. Aja means one who transcends birth and death. Um, in purport, Prabhupada also writes that material people accepted this perverted reflection to be real. So most people in this material world, people we reach out to, we see in society, they consider the things of this material world to be permanent, to be real, and they believe that their enjoyment is everything is in this world only. They say that life and death, enjoyment and sadness is all in this material world. They do not understand that this is just a reflection. There is a reflection, then there must be something that's original, that is pure. We search for love, we search for endless love in this world because there is an endless love that is truly there. Because the relationships that we share, that we search for in this world are all temporary. They have many limitations. And at the end, they're going to give us a lot of pain and suffering because of the temporary attraction. However, the reason this desire in our heart is there to have this permanent relationship with love, because this already exists in the spiritual world. So instead of wasting time on the temporary reflection of this world, devotees will tend to focus on achieving the love of Godhead, Krishna. Jesus Christ had said that make not your treasure in this world, but in the kingdom of God. For in the kingdom of God, the treasures are not destroyed, eaten by moth, stolen by thieves, and destroyed by time. And in the next part of the verse in the Bible, it is said that because where your treasure is, there your heart will be. So, dear devotees, we have to identify is what we treasure in this life. If for material people who put their treasure as having material achievements, material success, their heart is in that treasure. But if we treasure the holy name of the Lord, Golokera Premadhan, Harinama Sankirtan, then our heart will also be invested in that area. And we can achieve that love of God. The other thing that's mentioned here, when Mother Sati is identifying with the family, is a lot of people, when I was growing up in India, there was this common phrase of sons of the soil. People used to identify from different state, and people used to identify for different quotas. And I'm from this state and this community and this caste and this country. Sometimes people identify, and they call that we are sons of the soil. So they misidentify themselves because they do not know their true identity, that we are not the body, but we are the soul. One who knows that I'm not this temporary body, but I am the eternal soul, does not call himself sons of the soil, but he thinks of himself as children of God. We're all children of God, and a person who's advanced in humility and knowledge, Vidya Vinay Sampanne, Brahmane Gavi Hastini, Suni Chaiva Supakecha, Pandita Samadarshana. That person can see equality in everybody. This world is in so much chaos right now, with so many wars going on and so many miserable economic situations that people have to undergo. And that is only because of this misidentification with the body. We have a namesake United Nations, where apparently all the countries are trying to be united, but because everybody is in this bodily consciousness and think themselves to be sons of the soil, there is inherently no unity in them. Srila Prabhupada said that ISKCON is the real United Nations, because all of us here from different communities, different states, different countries, sometimes even different languages, we all understand that we are children of God and not sons of the soil. So because of this understanding of each other as children of God, we connect with each other. And Prabhupada said that I have built a house, such a big house, in which the whole world can live as a family, because we all accept our one Father, Krishna. In the next shloka, the two important words described. One is Bhava. So normally Lord Shiva is addressed as Bhava. Bhava means one who's born. But Abhava, the reason Mother Sati addresses Lord Shiva as Abhava is means one who has never felt material miseries. The other word she addresses Lord Shiva as is Neelakantha. And we know the wonderful pastime of how during the Samudra Manthan Leela, Lord Shiva had, in order to help the demigods and all the living entities in the universe, swallowed the poison and had turned his neck into blue. So Mother Sati, by addressing him with such wonderful titles, requests her that you are such a great personality and you've tolerated so much for the people of the world. So please, for my sake also, just tolerate this inconvenience and this misunderstanding, and please kindly give me permission, because I very, very dearly would like to go and participate in this yagya with my family. So in this particular way, we come to the last text for the day. Um, she continues to address him, and she mentions that how can a daughter be undisturbed when she hears about an event in her father's house? Again, one other reason that because this was of her own family event, she wanted to go there. And she felt that even if you're not invited, there are some places you don't need invitation for, including friend, husband, spiritual master, or the father. You can go without invitation as well. And with this, we'll conclude our discussion today and see how wonderfully Mother Sati has put forward different reasons, although based on material understanding, and how in tomorrow's class, Lord Shiva is going to give counter arguments to those reasons and try to explain spiritually why they're not valid. Thank you, everybody, for your association. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you so much for nicely describing and still keeping it eloquent and consistent, concise, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Wonderful class. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.